Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll continue following the deeply emotional story of the single mother Lythieuca and the police officer Hoai, two ordinary yet resilient souls living in a small countryside village. In the previous episode, Typhoon number 10 struck without warning. Heavy rain, fierce winds, and rising floodwaters swallowed the entire village beneath a sea of chaos. Hoai's small wooden home, filled with memories of her, mother Ha, and little Tony, was swept away in an instant. Amid the storm's fury, tragedy struck. Hoai was swept away by the raging current. Without a moment's hesitation, Hoai, the brave officer, shouted, "Ca! Grab onto something, anything." Then he dove straight into the muddy torrent, fighting against waves that battered him from every side. On the riverbank, Mother Ha clutched Tony tightly in her arms, crying and screaming through the howling wind. "Hoai! Save her, my son! Save my girl, please, save Hoai!" The sound of rain, the cries, and the desperate shouts blended together into a haunting symphony. A melody of despair and hope intertwined in the storm's chaos. And now, the next chapter begins. At the thin line between life and death. Between love, courage, and the miracle of faith. Stay tuned to see whether Hoai can bring Hoai back safely. And what challenges await them when the storm finally passes. The rain kept pouring down. Each drop, as thick as a chopstick, lashed against his face, his neck, his body bracing itself in the icy current. The wind howled in gusts, dragging along the crash of torn tin roofs, the snap of broken branches, and the wails of villagers echoing from afar, blending into a chaotic symphony of a raging nature. Lightning ripped across the sky, revealing Hoai, his broad frame trembling in the murky floodwaters. He pushed against the current, each step heavy as if he were fighting the weight of the earth itself. Wave after wave struck him, staggering his body, yet he rose again, the flashlight in his hand flickering as it searched through the dark, swirling sea. The faint yellow glow skimmed across the surface, reflecting in his frantic, despairing eyes. His voice was hoarse, carried off by the wind, swallowed into the night rain. Hoai, shouting, "Ca! Where are you? Don't leave me, don't leave our child. Ca!" His cry broke and stretched across the storm. But the only answer was the hammering rain. The roaring current smashing into tree trunks. And the pounding of his own heart, counting each second of life and death. Far away, on the high bank, Mother Ha clutched little Tony to her chest. The boy trembled, his young face drenched in rain. Red-rimmed eyes staring at the dark water below. Mother Ha choked back tears, shivering as she screamed into the wind. "Mother Ha, Hoai! Come back, my son. The water's too strong. Don't go down there, it's too dangerous." But Hoai heard nothing. Wind, rain, and the growl of the waves drowned out every sound. In his mind there was only one image, Hoai, the woman he loved more than his own life, being swept further and further away. He waded, swam, groped through the muddy current. Slippery silt, rotten branches, floating debris wrapped around his legs, dragging him down. But Hoai forced himself up again, moving forward, whispering like a prayer in the heart of despair. "Please, spare her, as long as she's alive, take my life instead." A flash of lightning tore open the screaming river. In the white glare, he saw it, a dark scrap of fabric snagged in the broken bamboo. His heart stopped. He froze, eyes wide, then lunged like a madman, swimming and shouting through the storm. "Hoai, Ca! Ca, is that you? Answer me. Hoai, Ca!" The water slammed against his face, freezing cold, but he kept swimming. His hand brushed something soft and cold, a human arm. He trembled, pulled hard, and cradled the small, limp body with tangled hair drifting in the current. "Ca. Wake up, please. Can you hear me?" He shook her, he called her name, tears mixing with the rain. In the darkness, only the lonely beam of the flashlight fell on the unconscious woman's face. The wind blew, the rain fell, but inside Hung everything went silent. Only his quiet prayer rose above the storm. "Don't take her away. I'm begging you, don't take my child's mother." Dawn was breaking. After a long night of wind and rain, the sky finally began to calm. The drizzle fell softly now, like mist floating through the cold, damp air. Across the hillside, a thin white fog lingered, a ghostly veil over the scars left behind by the raging storm. The ground was soaked and scarred with puddles of muddy water. Traces of the flood remained, footprints, splintered wood, a drifting hat, a single sandal. From afar, the weak crow of a rooster echoed across the village, a faint reminder that morning had come. But in everyone's hearts, the fear had not yet faded. Then suddenly, from the riverbank, a voice shouted out, panicked, trembling. "Hung! There's someone lying down by the reeds." Hung froze, his eyes widened, a spark of hope flashing across them. Before anyone could say another word, he sprinted toward the sound. His feet slipped on the mud, water splashing high, his clothes drenched, his breath ragged. His heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst from his chest. There, among the flattened reeds, lay a small, motionless body. Her hair was tangled, her clothes smeared with mud. The dim morning light fell across her pale face, her lips blue and still. It was Hoai. Hung stopped dead. The world around him seemed to freeze. Then, in an instant, he dropped to his knees, trembling hands lifting her head, his voice breaking with despair. "Ca, please, wake up, it's me, don't scare me like this." No answer. Only the sound of the drizzle, and the pounding of his heartbeat echoing in the silence. He placed his hand over her chest, cold. He pressed his ear to her lips, and there it was, a faint breath, so fragile it could have been mistaken for mist. But to him, it was enough to reignite the entire sky within his heart. "She's breathing. She's still breathing." Hung shouted, his voice cracking between joy and tears. Behind him, Mother Ha and several villagers came running. When she saw her daughter stir, the old woman collapsed to her knees, her hands trembling as she clasped them together, her voice quivering like the wind itself. "Oh God, my daughter's alive, thank you, Heaven. Thank you for sparing her life." She sobbed uncontrollably, kneeling in the mud, her tears blending with the rain. Little Tony stood still for a moment, then burst into tears, his tiny hands clutching his grandmother's arm. The villagers fell silent, some wiped their eyes, others rested their hands on Hung's shoulder, unable to speak a word. Amid the flooded reeds and pale morning mist, the image of a man holding his rescued wife was a moment no one would ever forget. After the night of terror, they had regained the most precious thing of all. A life, a miracle, and a flicker of hope shining through the ruins. The small wooden house stood quietly on the hillside, the only one in the area still standing after the devastating flood. Its roof tiles leaked, its wooden walls were stained with mud, but amidst all the wreckage, a faint glow from an oil lamp spilled across the porch, warm, steady, like a miracle that refused to die. The rain had stopped. Only a few soft drops drifted through the morning mist. Along the muddy slope leading up to the house were footprints, the marks of neighbors who had stayed behind to help carry Hoai home. Everyone was drenched, clothes caked with mud, faces weary, yet their eyes glimmered with quiet joy and compassion. Careful, easy, she's still weak, one of the men murmured. Yeah, lay her on her side. Keep her warm. Each step they took was slow, gentle, as if they were carrying the most precious gift their whole village had just wrestled back from death itself. Behind them, Hung followed closely, his hand never letting go of his wife's. His whole body trembled from the cold, but in his eyes burned a fierce, unwavering fire, the fire of love and hope reborn. Inside, Mother Ha was trembling as she lit the hearth. The smoke from damp firewood curled upward, mingling with the musty scent of wet timber. It slipped through the cracks in the roof, swirled past the small window, and drifted out into the foggy morning. The flame flickered weakly at first, then flared to life as she added the last few dry sticks salvaged after the storm. The crackling of the fire sounded like the house itself was breathing again. She carefully chopped ginger and dropped it into the pot of boiling water. The sharp, spicy scent filled the room, washing away the damp chill and the sour smell of the flood. Wiping her tears, her voice hoarse but steady, she whispered, part to her daughter, part to herself. Mother Ha, as long as there's life, there's everything. Houses can be rebuilt. Things lost can be earned again. But if my daughter's alive, that's all I could ever ask for. Beside the bed, Hung sat quietly, his calloused hands gently wringing the water from Hoai's tangled hair. The firelight danced across his bruised, exhausted face, yet his gaze was impossibly soft. Every strand he dried was a silent tear falling into his palms. He leaned close, voice trembling like a vow. Sleep now, it's over. I'm here. Mother's here. Tony's here. We're not letting you go anywhere ever again, CA. Next to him, Tony sat cross-legged by the bed, eyes swollen from crying. The boy reached out with his tiny hand, touched his mother's fingers, and looked up through sobs. Mom, don't go far again, okay? I was so scared. I thought you'd never come back. The room fell silent. The child's broken voice sliced through the stillness like a blade through the heart. Hung lowered himself, pulled his son into his arms, whispering through choked tears. No, son. Mom's still here with us. She's just resting, see? She'll wake up soon. Then, a faint stir. Hoai moved slightly, her lips trembling, eyes fluttering open under the flicker of the firelight. Her frail hand reached out and brushed her son's cheek. A single tear rolled down her pale face, mingling with the warmth of his tiny skin. Mom's not going anywhere. I promise, she whispered, weak but clear. Mother Ha broke down, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks as she fell to her knees, hands clasped together, her voice trembling with gratitude. Oh, thank heaven, my daughter's alive. Thank you, Lord, for sparing them, thank you. Outside, dawn finally broke. The first golden rays pierced through the mist, glinting on the rain-soaked roof. From afar came the sounds of roosters crowing, dogs barking, and villagers calling to one another as they began cleaning up, signs that life, once again, was stirring. Inside the small house, the aroma of warm ginger, wood smoke, and damp earth blended into something rare. The scent of life, of hope, and of humanity after the storm. 3 generations sat side by side, saying nothing. Only their eyes spoke. And the soft patter of rain outside kept time. A gentle lullaby guiding them back toward peace. A week had passed since the fateful storm. The sky was clear again, soft sunlight draping over bamboo groves still scarred by the wind. The ground was damp, the scent of fresh mud lingering in the air, yet warmth had returned, carrying with it the quiet rhythm of life. From afar came the sounds of roosters crowing, hammers clanking, and villagers repairing their homes, simple noises, yet filled with hope. Hung walked slowly beside Hoai, his arm gently supporting her as they followed the dirt path home. With each step, she leaned lightly on his shoulder, fragile, but safe. In one hand, he held an old conical hat to shield her from the sun. With the other, he clasped her fingers tightly, guiding her across patches of dried mud, past uprooted bamboo, and along the still murky stream. Ahead, their home gradually came into view, but it was no longer the same. The metal roof had been torn away, the wooden walls tilted, planks cracked and crossed over one another. The wooden cabinet had drifted out to the porch, the windows shattered, the doorframe warped. Across the floor, the flood had left a dark brown line, a scar carved by time itself. Hoai stood frozen. Her eyes wandered across the ruins before her, her hand rose to cover her mouth. Her voice trembled, breaking halfway through. Hoai, all our years of work, and now this is all that's left? The wind brushed past, carrying a few strands of her tangled hair across her face. The sunlight caught her tired eyes, swollen from sleepless nights, eyes heavy with sorrow, yet shining with a strange, quiet light. Hung didn't answer right away. He stepped forward, bent down, and picked up a family photo caked in mud. Wiping it gently with his sleeve, he revealed the faded image of the three of them, himself, Hoai, and little Tony, their smiles blurred but still there. He handed it to her, his voice calm, deep, and unwavering. Hung, we can rebuild it. What's lost can be made again. We still have each other, Ca. She looked at him. In that moment, every sound seemed to fade away. Only their eyes met, eyes that had seen despair, survived death, and learned the true weight of being alive. She nodded softly and took his hand. A single tear slipped down her cheek, but a smile bloomed in its place. Amid the wreckage, they saw not loss, but a new beginning. Hoai, let's rebuild it, shall we? The house, the kitchen, the garden. I want to plant everything again. Hung, yes, we'll rebuild. But this time, stronger, higher, so Tony won't be scared anymore. They shared a smile, eyes glimmering beneath the sunlight. In the distance, Tony came running, clutching a few wildflowers, his small voice bright and pure. Mom! Look! The flowers are blooming. Both turned toward him, laughter breaking through their tears. Hung bent down to lift his son, while Hoai knelt to gaze at the tiny blossoms pushing up through the broken earth. It was such a simple image, and yet achingly beautiful. Among the ruins, life had begun to bloom again. Outside, the sunlight poured golden across the hillside. The cool wind carried away the smell of mud, replacing it with the scent of straw, of sunshine, and of peace returning at last. Morning came, warm and golden. After endless days of rain, the sun finally returned, its soft light filtering through the canopy, glinting off droplets of dew that still clung to banana leaves, shimmering like tiny pearls. The air was fresh, the scent of wet earth still lingering, the smell of life returning. From the winding village road came cheerful sounds, voices calling to one another, hoes striking the soil, hammers clanging against nails, the metallic rustle of tin roofs being fixed. All across the village, people were helping each other rebuild, patching fences, clearing debris, dredging the ditches. Amid the sunburned faces, streaked with sweat yet glowing with smiles, one could feel the quiet strength of human kindness, simple, but deeply moving. In front of Hoai's house, a group of neighbors worked busily. Some shoveled mud, some carried roofing sheets, others gathered broken furniture or straightened bent doorframes. The mingling of laughter, chatter, and birdsong filled the morning air, the melody of a village coming back to life. Hoai, wearing a conical hat, sleeves rolled up, swept piles of dried mud and debris with a bamboo broom. Her figure looked thinner after the storm, but her eyes shone with new light, stronger, steadier. Each time a neighbor brought supplies or offered help, she would pause, smile warmly, and say, "Troy oi, thank you so much, everyone. Without you, I don't know how we'd manage." Uncle Ba, a sturdy man in a faded t-shirt, chuckled as he shoveled mud. Uncle Ba, helping each other in tough times. That's just how our village lives, dear. We lose things, but we rebuild together. Don't be shy. Hoai looked up, the sunlight glinting in her tear-brimmed eyes, her voice trembling but full of gratitude. Hoai, yes, thanks to everyone, I feel stronger now. Looking back, getting through that storm, it really feels like being born again. From behind the house, Hung appeared, holding a hammer. He was tightening a wooden beam, glancing toward his wife with a quiet smile. Their eyes met across the sunlit yard, just one look, and it said everything. Solidarity, trust, and a love that no storm could ever wash away. On the porch, Mother Ha sat on a bamboo chair, gently fanning Tony. She stayed home to look after him, since the kindergarten hadn't reopened yet. Its roof had been blown off, the classrooms still flooded. The little boy sat obediently on a mat, a box of old crayons before him. He was drawing, his small hands moving in bright, messy strokes. "Grandma Ha, what are you drawing, Tony?" "Tony, a new house for Mom and Dad. There's our jackfruit tree too, and my chicken." She looked at the drawing and smiled. In it, the house stood upright, smoke curling from the chimney, the sun above grinning wide and round. That image warmed her heart. Even amid ruins, a child's hope still bloomed like the first green shoot after rain. Outside, Hung's laughter mixed with the steady rhythm of his hammer. Hoai wiped the sweat from her forehead and called out playfully, "Hey, make that left frame a little straighter, okay?" "Got it, don't worry. We'll finish by evening." Hung replied, voice strong and sure. The whole neighborhood bustled again, hands busy, voices bright, hearts connected. Among the scars of loss, the sound of life was rising once more. The sound of human resilience and faith, stronger than any storm. Standing in the middle of the yard, Hoai took a deep breath. The scent of mud, smoke, and sunlight blended into one, the fragrance of peace. She smiled and looked up at the clear blue sky finally opening after days of gray. There, the clouds were parting, letting the sunlight pour through. A light that seemed to whisper, "After every storm, life goes on. And they will begin again, with love." Early morning. The sun rose gently over the hillside, its golden light spilling across the roof of the newly rebuilt home, glimmering like hope reborn. After days of cleanup, Hoai and Hung's little wooden house now stood neat and bright, as if no storm had ever passed through. On the porch, the flower pots once broken by the wind had been set upright again, stretching toward the sunlight. The old kitchen fire burned anew, sending trails of soft blue smoke curling through the areca palms by the yard. Hung stood outside, hanging freshly washed clothes on a bamboo line. Every movement was slow, deliberate, as though he were quietly putting life back in order after all the chaos. The morning breeze carried the mingled scents of sunshine, clean laundry, and the faint aroma of tea wafting from the house. Inside, Hoai brewed a pot of hot tea, her graceful hands pouring it carefully into small cups for the neighbors who had come to help. On the table sat a plate of boiled sweet potatoes, a few parcels of sticky rice cakes, and a bowl of sesame salt, humble, familiar flavors of the countryside after a storm. People sat close together, chatting, laughing, their voices mingled with the cheerful chirping of birds in the garden. From afar came the sounds of children calling to each other, hammers tapping on rooftops, roosters crowing in the distance. Life had truly returned, peaceful, steady, and filled with the warmth of human kindness. Standing on the porch, Hoai looked out at the freshly swept yard, where sunlight glittered on the last dewdrops clinging to the grass. The breeze tugged lightly at her sleeve, lifting strands of her hair. She narrowed her eyes and smiled, her voice soft as the wind. Hoai, I've never seen sunlight this beautiful before. Hung turned toward her. The sunlight fell on his tanned face, his eyes warm and gentle. Hung, that's because we've finally made it through the longest night. They smiled at each other, simple, genuine, glowing with quiet warmth. In that golden light, the two of them standing together in the yard looked like a painting, serene, timeless, untouched by the storms of life. Inside, Mother Ha sat with Tony. The little boy's kindergarten still hadn't reopened, its roof torn away, walls cracked, the furniture destroyed. But Tony was happy, chattering to his grandmother as he drew with his crayons. On his paper, a bright new house stood tall, smoke rising from the chimney, a smiling sun above, and his parents standing side by side while he laughed in the sunshine. Mother Ha looked at the drawing and smiled softly. Mother Ha, just hearing him laugh, my heart feels lighter already. The scene was peaceful, warm, full of hope. But amid that perfect morning, something subtle began to shift. Like a thin cloud slowly drifting across the sun. Hung paused. He raised a hand to his forehead. Sweat beaded there, though the air was still cool. He frowned, coughed a few times, then forced a small smile when he saw Hoai looking over. It's nothing, maybe I just worked a bit too hard these past few days. But in Hoai's eyes, a flicker of worry appeared. She stepped closer, laid her hand on his forehead. It was burning hot. Her expression froze, breath catching for a moment. The camera lingers there. Sunlight still glows, laughter still echoes. But in the hearts of those watching, something suddenly grows heavy.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người câu chuyện về mẹ đơn thân Lý, Hoài Ca và cả sát Hồng. Mọi người thân mến, thì ở Việt Nam mình thì hiện tại thì mấy ngày nay thì bão lũ thì đã kéo về rất nhiều, và những cơn bão kéo về liên tục, từ cơn bão số 9, số 10, số 11. Và một trong những nơi bị ảnh hưởng nặng nề nhất là nơi mà Hoài Ca và Hồng đang sinh sống. Hoài Ca và Hồng cũng bị ảnh hưởng rất nhiều, và ngôi nhà của Hoài Ca thì cũng bị bão lũ nó tàn phá rất là kinh khủng, và hơn nữa là Hoài Ca cũng suýt rơi vào nguy hiểm. Thì ở trong video hôm nay thì mọi người cũng có thể biết được nội dung rồi. Tuy là mọi khó khăn đã qua, nhưng mà nó cũng để lại cho chúng ta nhiều bài học rất là lớn, và mình cũng mong rằng mọi người có thể yêu quý hơn và ủng hộ cho Hoài Ca nhiều hơn. Mọi người hãy để lại bình luận để chúc phúc cũng như cầu nguyện cho Hoài Ca và Hồng mọi người nhé. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video sau. Bye bye.